Salvatore. I'm the CEO of Camacol Talk, and welcome to Camacol Talk. This is a weekly video podcast that we do. We interview our members, board of directors, special friends, city officials, and much, much more. The program is brought to you by the City of Doral, Baptist Health South Florida, City Place Doral, and Equitable Advisors. We're on every Friday, 11 a.m. on Facebook Live and on our YouTube channel, Camacol Talk. Today, we're going to look at the topic of mental wellness. Our guest is Carmen Baresi. She is a licensed mental health counselor with Baptist Health South Florida. And we're going to talk about the challenges that so many face today, but at the same time, the victories regarding mental wellness. Okay, here on Camacol Talk now, welcome Carmen Baresi. She, again, is a licensed mental health counselor with Baptist Health South Florida. How are you today?
I'm doing well, Pete. Thank you for asking. And yourself?
Doing terrific. Thank you for taking time. I know you're busy. You have a lot in your hands, like all of your colleagues at Baptist Health. Before we get into the topic today, which is people in general, business owners, entrepreneurs, that have been challenged from a mental wellness perspective through COVID, after COVID. Before we get to those details, tell us a little bit about yourself and also Baptist Health as it relates to this whole focus on mental wellness.
Absolutely, Pete. So thank you for the introduction. I am a psychotherapist for Baptist, and the specific efforts that we make as part of community health is working with the community and providing services not only to educate the community and focus on wellness, but also offer a variety at the moment virtual programs that can offer exercise programs, also education and nutrition programs. So we offer the community a variety of services that will focus on not only mental wellness, but also how to eat and live healthy lifestyles.
That's important because so many times we isolate each thing, the diet and what you eat from, your mindset, your attitude, but it all comes together, right? Everything connects with each other.
Absolutely. Everything, this great interconnectedness web that we are made up of. It comes from basically our makeup to how we think, how our cells interact with each other. And all that is generated by what we eat and also what we put in our minds. The thoughts that we tell ourselves, what we are thinking, that affects how we feel and how we act.
There's no doubt about it. And this whole issue of mental health has been in the headlines for the last few years more than ever. So many sad stories that we're hearing out there, and what an epidemic it really is. And so many folks are living lives of quiet desperation, and they don't either seek the help, they don't know how to seek help, and they're going through all the issues of that normal people do, of pride and I can take care of the issue myself. I don't need anybody. So that's another challenge on top of everything. Correct?
Absolutely. And we're seeing a lot of movements today that weren't as dominant in the past. For example, May that just passed was Mental Health Awareness Month, like you're mentioning. There's this new open door and this concept that we can talk about it and it's okay. And the more we talk about it, the more we learn about it, the more services we find out that are available. And like you mentioned, there's this kind of, especially in the entrepreneur world, I noticed that we want to strive to be successful, and often in times we suffer in silence, and it could become an issue because we want to strive. We see all these success stories, but within that there's also the moments of silence where there's that fear of failure, and also that kind of also magnified idea that what happens if I'm not successful, if I'm not able to get where I'd like to be. And this month, June, is post-traumatic stress month. So that within itself, like we were mentioning, this pandemic brought forth a lot of traumatic events within all the adaptation that was required at a last minute moment.
Yep. Yep. It was a situation that hit everybody by surprise. It was a shock What happened, nobody really expected it. Nobody asked for it. It wasn't anybody's fault. It happened, and there was a lot of questions and I'm sure that, and you saw it with many of the folks that you serve and all that, is the big question is why? Why? Why did this happen? Why, am I now, why, how can, I've lost my job. Why? What's going on? This is not fair. So why don't we talk a little bit about, first of all, the challenges that you saw firsthand with the folks that you work with, and some of the things that were challenging, and then I want to flip it over afterwards and talk about the victories that people actually took upon themselves with a change of attitudes. And let's talk about the challenges and that you saw firsthand.
Absolutely. There was a wide breadth of challenges. So we're learning to adapt in a moment for these situations that we weren't really ready to prep or handle for. So within it were these restrictions that were placed. And a lot of it, like you mentioned, is that question of why. And sometimes it's hard and to accept the answer that sometimes it's just because we were doing the best we can with what we were given at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And hindsight is 2020. However, in that moment, it's a matter of responding with the resources we have. So a lot of things changed at that moment. Closures in businesses, and then the uncertainty of what can we do? I mean, seeing where we've come now to where we were over a year ago, a lot has changed. So we really didn't know what the effects, the long-term effect, and we're still in that learning phase. But at that moment, we were facing losses in business, losses in production. And in addition to all those additional stressors, what entrepreneurs deal with on a daily basis, such as dealing with partners, disputes with customers, also making sure that they can have a significant payroll to maintain employees. There's that additional pressure of having to provide not only for yourself, but for others.
Mm-hmm,
And
absolutely.
adds a layer of extra stress and internal pressure, in addition affecting mental well-being and the status of your wellness.
Yes, it again, um, when you see trouble coming, like when we're during hurricane season, it seems like we get notice far in advance of a storm even coming close to us. It's 2,000, it's 3,000 miles. And then, the weathermen on TV and the network, they keep telling you, well, this is the cone. And so you kind of know it's coming forward. Uh, we had heard about the coronavirus and it was out there, but we really never thought it was going to affect us here. And then within a matter of a couple of weeks, bingo, it was there. The shutdown came down. And then everything fell apart. The world as we knew it changed. And as you just mentioned, it hit people in so many different ways. The business owners, the everything you just said there, the responsibility of the families of their employees, and feeling that, my God, I'm letting them down when it's not really there. It's just everything as it was. So knowing that, and we know that a lot of folks are still going through the after effects of that, and hopefully they're making a recovery. What I'd like to do right now is talk about the victories. Let's talk about the folks that maybe were in a really dark place during all of this, but that were able to come out and were able to, get themselves above that, and today are taking a look back and saying, that was really difficult, but look at me now. I've grown. I've gotten out of this. I've become more resourceful. Let's talk a little bit about that part.
Absolutely. And I love the hurricane analogy. We didn't get a cone of preparedness for Corona. It was basically do what you can with what you have.
Mhm.
And going back to the victories, a lot of it goes back to resiliency. How
Mhm.
can we recover from these difficulties? And without a doubt, the active level of business owners in US plummeted from February to April in 2020. And now we're looking as a lot of businesses resurface. They also adapt. For example, meetings that were in person are now being done virtual, and
Mhm.
learning to do, again, going back to that resiliency factor. So how do we bounce back after such difficulties and hardships?
Mm.
So a lot of businesses are trying to go back to the new norm and adapting to that. So what does that look like? Accommodating and going. And I think it's also very important to think of, like you're mentioning, those also the small victories that we make. So as business owners and also supervisors and leaders, managers, think about not only your professional performance on a daily basis, but think about something that you're proud of that you do on a daily basis. Sometimes we forget to take care of ourselves and recognize we fall into this routine of, I can do this, I've been doing it, I should do this. And that's good to be motivated by that, but also focus on the little gains that you're making. Sometimes we forget, or we'll look at a situation as, oh wow, that presentation, it didn't go the way I wanted to. But if we learn to change that question to ask ourselves what went well, we start focusing on the positive. And I think that's important, especially with how things are going right now, as we're kind of in that turning point. The summer
Yes.
is looking a lot different than last summer was. So focusing on that, the statistics show that 3 out of 4, about 75% of startup businesses may not make it. So if you're in that 25% that has made it and continues to make it, recognize that. I know it's sometimes difficult because we're in a state of comparison, or maybe how we were 2 years ago. Learn to accept that things have changed, and learn to modify that baseline. It's going to look different, and that's okay. It's going to look different for everyone.
I've always, and I've done this for years, is um, because it's the old adage, a glass of water and it's 50% full. Is it half empty or is it half full? Right? It's really that simple. It may not be easy when you're dealing with emotions and feelings, but it is that simple, right? Um, what you just said about the small victories is so important. It's so, I mean, just the most incidental things the smallest things that you can do that you may not think is a big deal, it is a big deal. And it's the little things that add up, or the little things that are being deducted, that make all the difference, whether you elevate yourself, what your confidence level is, or what your self-esteem becomes. If little by, and you don't see it happening,
Mhm.
little by little you're kind of going down. If you don't look at the small victories, and if you look at everything being dark and horrible, the little steps, the little victories, and sometimes you don't even see them, start to build that self-esteem and confidence up. And it's on a daily basis that happens. And I would say journal all your
Mhm.
victories. Some of them are huge, some of them are very small. Some of them are no big deal to anybody else, but it is to you personally. And this is
Right.
a personal journey that we all go through at different levels.
Absolutely, Pete. And it's also important to sometimes expand and modify our definition of success. Our success, what it looks like June 2021, can look very different to what it looked like June 2020, June
Hmm.
2017. So that going back to that resiliency and that adaptability. So defining our success can change. And with that changes our goals and our mindset. So I think that's also in addition to celebrating the little victories, learn to be flexible with your definition of success. I've worked with very highly motivated individuals. And then when one thing goes wrong, focusing on the failures takes back from all the successes. So learn to celebrate. And sometimes even failures, just like I talk about identifying negative emotions and their purpose, failures also have a purpose. Although it may not be when we want them or how we want them, they also help define us and shape us.
Hmm. There's no doubt about it. And I have a personal definition of failure myself. And it isn't that you tried something and it didn't work. Failure for me is in the not trying. Okay? You don't fail because you try something and it didn't work. What you do, you learn that that may not be the way to do that, or what can I learn from this so I can do it differently, or what new idea was developed. But failure, I think, to be honest with you, is the not doing. It's just sitting back and you're not doing things because you're fearful, and not wanting to take that step because it's the unknown. I think the unknown is what really is the biggest challenge we all have, is the not knowing.
Mhm.
When we don't want to move forward because what if something goes wrong? And so we stay in that environment of the unknown, which then your mind, when you're there, you come up with all different types of scenarios, and most of them are not good.
Right. Absolutely. We have over, I think it's 60,000 thoughts a day, and a lot of them are repetitive, and they tend to be going back to what you said, Pete, those what ifs. And we're not thinking, what if it goes right? We're thinking, what if it goes wrong? What if I don't meet the quota? What if the meeting doesn't go well? What if the deal doesn't go through? So changing that. And like you mentioned, so we're wired to make meaning and find answers. So why don't we learn to modify those questions that we're asking to build that self-esteem, build that confidence that we have? We're go-getters. So it's a matter of creating that for ourselves. And it's difficult. It's a difficult habit to break. The Harvard Business Review wrote an article and published it on how sometimes it's not only the fact that we do it daily, but then that becomes a habit. And then how do we break a habit? It's challenging. So learning to take those small little steps. I love that you mentioned journaling. So writing down, and also in addition to that, what are you grateful for? Sometimes
Yes.
we forget that that we're thankful for the most minor things. But if we write it down and make a kind of a tradition, or at least a habit, to celebrate those little things, because it's great when we're successful. It's great when we are able to execute something the best that we can. But the reality is that sometimes that may not happen. But within that comes something that may have triggered a change or motivated you to do something differently. And I think it's important to have that concept of kind of like the whole picture, not just focusing on the good, but also, if we do focus on the bad, what good came out of it?
And most of the time, good comes out of it. Okay. Um, this is phenomenal. I could talk with you for forever on
Mhm.
this topic, because I become more and more fascinated every day of how powerful the mind is, and either way, either to drag you down or to lift you up. And it really is, today, with all the different distractions in the world and everything going on, it's become very stressful for folks. And I think at the end of the day, if you can adopt some tools to help you, and not just cope. This is not about just getting through, okay? Because I don't see that as mental well. I think it is getting through, and on the other end, and getting stronger and growing and going to that next level. So that's another topic on another day. The survival mindset. Let me just get
Mhm.
through this, and let me just get through that, because then you're just surviving the whole life, and you're not really enjoying things there. How can the viewers find out more about your services, what Baptist Health is doing? Where do they need to go?
Absolutely. They can email programs@baptisthealth.net, and there they can subscribe to our programs that we offer every day, programs at different times that focus on mental wellness, exercise programs, and all, like I had mentioned, educational programs. So we'll have talks on how to organize your thoughts, on meditation sessions, how to take 15 minutes to recharge. So we offer a variety of programs available to the community that are available through Zoom. And in addition, there's also some resources if you're interested in receiving mental health services, or if you know anyone that may be having issues with, maybe they want someone to talk to, or a support group. That all can be available at programs@baptisthealth.net. In addition, there are services within the community that you could reach out to. We have the Recovery Village at Baptist Health that provides mental health services. And then we also have other within the communities that are available if you send an email.
Fantastic. So much is out there for the business owner, but also the general public. Carmen, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us on Camacol Talk. This has been a real, I think, invigorating, positive conversation, because it's all about solutions and not focusing so much on the problems. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Pete. I hope you have a great day.
You do. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.
A big thank you once again to Carmen Baresi for being with us here today. We hit on a topic of mental wellness that affects every single one of us, whether we're in the business world or with our families or whatever that might be. And there is good news on that. The more that we talk about it, the more we look at the solutions, the better we are all going to be from it. We are on, like I said, every Friday, 11 a.m. on our Facebook page, Camacol Talk, and our YouTube channel as well. I want to thank you for being with us as you do every single week. Keep writing to us. Send us your feedback on this program, because we want to make sure that the conversations are going to be something that you want to be a part of and that you will benefit from. Make sure that you follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and of course, like I said, our YouTube channel. Thank you so much for being with us here today. Have a fantastic week.